Today, there are numerous noteworthy events occurring in the Kherson region. Russian forces in this area persist in trying out a new strategy. They continue to make multiple endeavors to put their new approach into action. This new tactic involves breaching Ukrainian defenses in the central part of the settlement, compelling Ukrainians to withdraw from their fortified positions within the forest due to the threat of encirclement. If you recall, the initial Russian assault in the morning failed to launch due to Ukrainian drone operators detecting and eliminating Russian tanks and armored fighting vehicles at night. Despite this, Russian soldiers were sent to carry out the attack, which turned out to be brief and unsuccessful. Ukrainian Marines have provided more insight into the intentions of the Russian forces. They revealed that the core of the tactic involves using tanks and armored carriers to transport Russian soldiers deep into Kherson. The ideal scenario for the Russians is for their soldiers to appear directly behind the Ukrainians in the forest. To further complicate matters for the Ukrainians, the Russian assault units are making extensive use of smokescreens. Ukrainian drone pilots recently released a video showing artillery fire directed at Russian positions in the forest, where Russians are assembling heavy equipment for the assaults. The roads in the forest are easily monitored by drones as they all run parallel to each other from north to south. By patrolling above Kherson, the Ukrainians can spot most incoming Russian equipment. Despite this, not all Russian gear was neutralized, leading to a second attempt by Russian forces. The subsequent operation was on a larger scale, as Russian forces opened two attack fronts, from the southwest and northeast. The northeastern attack was clearly a supporting one, as the Russian assault group was much smaller. Their aim was to enter the village and maintain a position without advancing, thus applying passive pressure on the Ukrainian fighters in the forest. However, the Russians failed to secure positions in the settlement. Ukrainian drone pilots disabled the first vehicle, compelling the infantry to flee, while the second vehicle also turned back without further progress. This allowed the Ukrainians to focus entirely on the primary Russian attack from the western side of the forest. Records of the combat reveal that the attack went awry from the beginning. The first two Russian tanks carrying the infantry immediately faced fire upon emerging from the forest. The tanks attempted to suppress Ukrainian firing points but were unable to establish a foothold in the settlement, prompting the Russian infantry to swiftly retreat back into the forest. After firing several shots, the Russian tanks sought to retreat, but Ukrainian drones intercepted them. The first tank was destroyed around the corner, while the second tank met a similar fate around 200 meters away. Close-up footage confirmed significant casualties among the crew. Despite this setback, it was not the final effort by Russian forces to outmaneuver the Ukrainians. Ukrainian fighters from Meteor's drone detachment reported a day saturated with Russian attacks, having no respite until midnight. The pattern remained consistent. Russians dispatched tanks and armored vehicles to provide cover for their infantry to establish a foothold in the area, but Ukrainians initiated engagements earlier and prevented the Russian advance. Consequently, on that day, Meteor's drone detachment destroyed 10 out of 11 tanks and armored vehicles, and 28 out of 31 detected Russian drones. In perspective, the Russians lost about 100 tanks and armored vehicles in this region, with Ukrainians destroying 10% in just one day. Thus, the Ukrainians have developed a robust defense system, which, combined with high coordination with drones and artillery, allows them to thwart the most formidable Russian mechanized assaults ever recorded in this region.